I don't know. Don't go to the ground with GSP.
I agree.
All right, thanks, man. Thanks for the call.
See you there.
All right. We go now to our next guest, the incomparable one, the man who has been the talk of the MMA world for quite some time, and we look forward to his return to the octagon at UFC 136. Mr. Chael Sonnen joining us. Chael, how are you?
Ariel, what's happening, brother? It
is great to have you on the show, and we appreciate the time very much. Many things to discuss with you, and by the way, great job on ESPN. I think that you really raise, you sort of raise the bar on that show. So great job on MMA Live, but many things to discuss that you might not have touched on MMA Live. We had UFC 134 in Rio a couple weeks ago, and a lot of fans were disappointed that you weren't there. Why weren't you in Rio to corner Yushin Okami?
Well, first off, that's a big compliment coming from you, and I really do appreciate that. Thanks, and thanks for the plug for the show. It's gaining steam, and we're getting some real attention down there at ESPN, so thank you for that. Secondly, I became a big distraction. I wanted to go and be part of that for one reason, which was to help Yushin. I could watch the show from my living room, but I wanted to be there and support him, and that was it. And quite frankly, I became a big distraction. It got a little bit out of hand even. The level of death threats got a little bit high. I reached 10 death threats, and I think number 7 was actually serious. By the looks of his eyes, it looked like he'd stabbed somebody before. So the final call came down to Yushin had a sponsor that just said, look, we'd rather he didn't come. The feeling on the ground here in Brazil is this could actually turn into a true incident. So, I mean, that was it. Look, if a sponsor makes a request, you follow through with it. And it wasn't my show. I wasn't part of it. It wasn't my night. I didn't want to take any attention off Yushin. And I truly believed he was going to win the championship. The last thing I wanted to do was take away from that.
Did that make you, for lack of a better word, a little sad that you couldn't go there to corner your friend that you had helped prepare for this fight? You did a great job of hyping the fight, probably better than Yushin and Anderson combined, and that you couldn't go because some people were offended by your words?
Well, I wanted to be part of it. I don't know if sad was the emotion I felt or not, but, I wanted to be part of it for sure. But again, look, it wasn't my place. If my only place in that was to show support, and if the better thing to do was to do that from my living room, then that's okay too.
On the flip side, I don't know if you saw the video that we did when we went on the beach and asked some of the fans about your comments in Brazil. Did you see that video?
Yeah, I watched that.
Now, you saw those comments. You saw the pictures that Dana White tweeted of fans, with T-shirts about you. There were signs about you. I've never seen a fighter who was not competing on a card such a big part of fight night and the lead-up to a fight. On the flip side, you're sitting in your home in Oregon. Are you just sort of scratching your head? How did I become such a big part of this storyline going into this fight?
A little bit, yeah. I made front page of the in Brazil, they have two newspapers. Two newspapers kind of cover the whole country. And one of those newspapers had me on the front page of it, and I wasn't even on the card. So, I was a little bit surprised that I had got so inundated with it. At the same time, I was flattered. But, again, I mean, it just wasn't my night. I wasn't part of this. I was no more than a fan, and that's all I ever wanted to be. I wanted to go out there, be a fan, pat Yushin on the back, help him warm up, and go out and serve a role that way. Hold the water bucket for him. And but yeah, I mean, yeah, I did see the video. I enjoyed it. You did good work with that.
Do you think, in some ways, the joke is on them that they're taking this so seriously? What you're saying? I mean, obviously, some of your comments, people have made videos about your videos. I mean, it's reached this level of fame in the world of MMA. But to see how passionate they are in their hatred towards you, can you help? Can you not just laugh about it all because it's just so intense?
I admire it. I like that they get like that. And to tell you what I mean, each country you fight in is different. In Japan, the crowd is silent. And they're silent not because they're not into the matches. There's 40,000 strong at some of those events. It's a sign of respect to be quiet and let the competition and the sport itself take place in front of you. In Brazil, it's totally different. But I like it. I think Brazil does it right. They support their fellow countrymen. In North America, we don't support our countrymen. I have people that are American that want to see me lose to Anderson, and that's okay. But it's a little bit odd. In no other country would you turn on your own countrymen. I'll give you a great example, and I don't know if you were at this fight or not, but Matt Hughes fought Royce Gracie. Mm-hmm. And that crowd booed, and it took place in Los Angeles. They booed Matt Hughes so loud, and they cheered Royce, with all of their might. And in no other country would you cheer against your fellow man except North America. And I love the American crowd, but that does always confuse me. And so I really admire the Brazilians for backing their own. It shouldn't be a matter of what anybody says. If their countryman's taking on a fellow countryman, you support your guy. And Brazil does it right. The North American fans need to take a page out of their book.
Now, is this Chael Sonnen planting the seed for the boos that he may hear at UFC 136? Is this your sort of way of preparing us for that?
For my boos, no. At 136, I'm fighting Brian Stan. I'm going to fight another American.
Right, exactly. But obviously they're going to have to boo one of you, right? And Brian Stan, it's hard to boo that guy.
Yeah, it is hard to boo Brian Stan. I don't think they have to boo one. They can cheer for both. I certainly don't care if they boo. If that's what I'm not asking for the crowd's approval. They can boo at the top of their lungs. I'm fine with that. I was just answering your question about Brazil. I do like the passion that Brazil brings, against me because it shows support for their fellow man. And that is what they should do. It's a fight. Country versus country, man against man. If you're going to cheer for somebody, cheer for your guy. But no, I'm not trying to feather a nest to be booed. Let him boo. Fan buys a ticket, he can do whatever he wants. That doesn't bother me.
What did you think of Yushin Okami's performance? Because that was not UFC 17 Part 2. It just looked to me like he was a little timid out there. What did you think of it?
I think that's a fair assessment. He's got my full support. He's got my full respect. That wasn't Yushin. That just wasn't the guy that I thought was going to show up and fight. He was timid. And I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was the crowd chanting, "You're going to die," that threw him off. I don't know if it was the environment. I don't know what it was, but he never got started. A lot of people had commented that the fight was changed when Anderson landed a big head kick in the first round. But for me, I was yelling at my TV about 18 seconds in. I was yelling, no, no, no. This is not the pace. This is not the range. This is not going to work. I just felt he never got started. There's something else, Ariel. He weighed in at 182, I think, or 183 with shorts and underwear on. And I'm going, what are you, you left here 15 pounds overweight, and now you're weighing in 3 pounds underweight. I'm a Mike Dolce guy. And if you're a Mike Dolce guy and the weight's 185, you weigh in at 185.0. You're not 0.3 underweight, let alone 3 pounds underweight. And where I'm going with that is possibly he got sick when he was there. Possibly something happened. He's one of these Japanese fighters. He could have had 10 different things wrong with him. You'll never know about it. 20 years from now, he'll still never say, "Oh, I had this ailment or that ailment." And I'm not saying he did. Maybe he's at 100%. I really don't know. I haven't been able to talk to him. But I did think that was a little peculiar that he was 3 pounds underweight for a title fight. That's unacceptable. That never happens.
Have you talked to him since the fight?
No, I've reached out to him, but I haven't been able to hear back. I got one response from his manager that said, something like, "Hey, we'll be in touch" or something. And I contacted him right away. So they have that travel day, and he's got to travel 2 continents to get home. But I haven't been able to speak to him.
Surely you were impressed with Anderson's performance, right? In my opinion, that was one of his best in the UFC.
Yeah, look, anybody that can beat Yushin or anybody that even has a close match with Yushin impresses me. I really think Okami's just an awesome fighter, and not just because he's a pal of mine. He's the real deal. He's beaten some really tough guys. I don't think I got quite as excited as some people did. If you rewind the tape on Anderson, let's go back to Vitor. That was supposed to be this real impressive performance. I'm going, well, he landed 1 kick. You look at the Yushin fight, it's a impressive performance. I'm going, well, he landed 2 punches in 7 minutes. It was an ideal case of inactivity, in my opinion. If I had to watch 25 minutes of that, I just wanted to made it. I just turned the TV off and gone to bed. But the finishes came out of nowhere, and they were impressive. There's no way to take that away from him. But he's the role model for inactivity. That's for sure.
Now, there has been some talk, and he talked about this in an interview with a Brazilian outlet, that he was actually injured going into the fight, and he had to take some painkillers, and his shoulder was actually hurting him a lot. Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I heard him say that.
That to me actually makes the performance a lot more impressive. Just the fact that he was not 100%, much like in your fight, from what we hear about his ribs.
Okay.
That's all. Just throwing that out there. But here's what I wanted to ask you about. Anderson, there are rumors, if he is healthy, that he will fight Dan Henderson, possibly as soon as November 19th in San Jose. We thought that your fight against Brian Stann would be a #1 contender fight. Would that disappoint you if Dan gets a shot before either you or Brian?
Well, my match with Brian will be a #1 contenders match. And if Anderson has a match in between, win or lose, Brian and I will have to compete with the winner of that match. So it doesn't change my life. And does it disappoint me to hear that Dan Henderson's going to get an opportunity? Of course not. I'm a teammate, a personal, very close friend with Dan. I'd love to see him get a shot. And I think he's deserving of it too. I don't know if he's going to go to that weight class. But then again, I think if they offered it to him, he would take it. I did ask him. I reached out and asked him, hey, was this fight offered to you? And, what happened here? Because I heard some rumors going around. But no, that wouldn't disappoint me.
What did he say when you asked him that?
Well, it's one of those conversations that never took place. I don't want to break any news before anybody else does. But if look, Dan wants to beat up Anderson too. He wants a shot at him too, and he wasn't happy with his first performance, and he's earned his way back. And I certainly have no ill will towards that.
If you beat Brian Stann and he beats Anderson, would you have a problem fighting him?
Yeah, I would. That would be extremely awkward for both of us, But Dan's one of these guys. You got to understand, Errol. I got 3 guys in my life that have really, been around me and helped me get to this spot. Obviously, Matt Lindland. Since I've been 17, I've been with him. Dan Henderson and Randy Couture. And one thing about those 3 guys is you compete with anybody, friend, foe. It's just competition. You shake hands. You do everything you can to win. You shake hands when it's over, and you walk out. And I would never disrespect the lessons that Dan himself has taught me by not following through with those lessons. And one of them is that you compete with anybody. So, I assure you, Dan likes me. Dan had punched me as hard as he could. He's done it plenty of times before.
Obviously, the big story coming out of 134 was Big Nog with that knockout win over Brendan Schaub. Did you see that video of his team crying, Anderson Silva crying in the locker room, celebrating the win? Just goes to show just how important Big Nog is to them. And I'm wondering if you were surprised by the fact that he did knock out Brendan Schaub, and he says now after the fact that he was only 80% going into that fight.
I wasn't near as surprised with that as I was by your setup of the question by declaring that the big story that came out of the UFC that night. Look, good for Big Nog. He took some time off. That's really hard to do. He was fighting in front of his home crowd. That's a lot of pressure. There's no such thing as home field advantage in a fight. It's home field disadvantage. So I think he had to overcome a few things, and I admired that he did it. And I think he did a very good job going out and getting that win. That was as ugly of a fight as I've seen in the UFC. I mean, that was as close to tough man as it gets. You got 2 guys flat-footed, hands down, chin up, out there swinging like bums until somebody falls down. I don't know that that's a big story. Did I see them crying? No, I didn't. But, look, they had every right to celebrate however they wanted. I'm sure it was a big relief. And, like him or don't like him, Big Nog is an inspiration, and he does a lot of things right that fighters should study and learn from.
By the way, I was in Brazil, and I enjoyed my time very much. I didn't see anyone petting buses over there. But
do they have buses there?
To be honest, I didn't see any. That's actually another. So maybe.
Yeah, I believe it.